Today we are looking at man a pilgrim. Man a pilgrim. And in our previous lessons, we started with the power of imagination. We came to living in the end. Then we went to visualization. And now we are studying man being a pilgrim. Are we together? Are you ready to move? All right. So the lady was talking about something that imagination. She went somewhere to look for internship and she ended up getting it by imagining herself into that state of being. So what is a state of being? A state of being refers to the physical condition that an individual finds himself in. A state of being is determined by the mental arrangement of an individual. So each and every one of us here is in a state of being. And that state of being is determined by the mental arrangement, how your mind is arranged. Understand this. You will never find two people who have the same mental arrangement. Each and every one of us here is in a state of being. And that state of being is defined by the way our mind is arranged. And there are thousands of states of being in this world. We call it infinite. We have the drunkard, the prostitute, the prophet, the pastor, the evangelist, the student. Infinite state of being. And man is a pilgrim who travels through all these states of being till he departs time section. So as you are seated here under the sound of my voice, you are in a particular state of being. Each and every one of us here is in a state of being. Every state of being has its own atmosphere, provisions, possibilities that are associated with that state of being. Every state of being that a man enters comes with its own atmosphere. It comes with its own magnetic state. And that magnetic state attracts the provisions, the possibilities that comes. Are you listening to me? So, if somebody is in a state of being, of poverty, the person will automatically attract circumstances, an atmosphere that will ensure that that person will continue and forever be in that state of being. So you will find the person to ensure that that money will depart from him, because he is in a state of poverty. Your state of being decide the things that comes into your world. They decide the kind of association that you get. They decide the kind of circumstances that you attract. Now let's look at the story of Daniel. The story of Daniel is a typical representation of a state of being. We are told in the book of Daniel chapter number 6 verse 22 how Daniel ended up in the lion's den. Now, on the psychological level of truth, remember whenever you come to ED Institute, the Bible is not interpreted to mean a story. We take it to a higher dimension. So the story of Daniel as presented to us, we are told that Daniel find himself in a lion's den. The lions there represent the afflictions of life. So you may be here, you find yourself in a state where there is so much complications around your life. So much complications. Just as Daniel. In the lion's den, he encountered lions that the Bible says for 3 days they've not eaten. On the psychological level, this is not lions or somebody, I always tell you, if you always pick the Bible on a story level, you may not truly get what it wants to communicate. This is why we have pastors trying to do all kinds of things and they end up dying. Recently, we heard the news from Zimbabwe where a man of God told the members that they should tie him and bury him. In 3 days, he'll wake up. So somebody will say, okay, you see, you don't have to struggle to prove that the Bible is true. Somebody will say, okay, Daniel was in the lion's den. Put me into the lion's den. But something interesting happened. The Bible said he turned his back on the lions and he focused and prayed to the Lord. What this statement means on the psychological level: to turn your back on the lions and then he prayed. In other words, man must always turn his back on the difficulties and the challenges of life and focus his attention on the desire that he seeks to manifest. Remember, in the first class, I shared with you that on the psychological level, prayer simply means assuming the state of the wish fulfilled. Assuming the state of the wish fulfilled. So Daniel turned his back on the lions and he focused his attention on the wish fulfilled. So the Bible says he turned his back on the lions and he prayed. State of being only gets awakened and becomes alive in a man's world when man focuses on them with his imaginative power. There are a lot of things that are happening in our lives simply because we are paying attention to them. And as you pay attention to those things, you give them life. Hear me. There are infinite states of being in this world. Sitting here as individuals, within us are all the states of being you can ever think of. Have you ever noticed this? That there was a friend of yours who used to be very griffé, like, griffé. Then suddenly the person has totally changed. The person doesn't want to hear anything about the gospel anymore. How many of you have friends like that? Or the opposite? Somebody at the senior high school who used to be very wild, and now you hear that the person is a man of God. You ask, "He's a man of God." Are we together? Oh, are we together? Now, in every human being lies all the states of being in this world. In every human being. But it takes something to awaken those states of being. The imagination. As a man imagines a state of being, he awakens that state within him. And that state, when it becomes awakened within a man, begins to find expression in his world. Next point. All states of being are lifeless until imagination awakens them. So the drunkard is right there inside of you. The prostitute is right there inside of you. The rich person is right there inside of you. The poor person is right there inside of you, simply awaiting for your imagination to give them life. All states of being are in existence in a man, simply awaiting his own imaginative power to awaken them. So as a man begins to imagine a state of being, he is giving life to that state. That thing is already there. They lie as though they are dead. They lie as though they are dead. Simply awaiting the man to activate, either knowingly or unknowingly. Now, this is the danger. There are a lot of things, if you begin to understand how these things operate, you will hardly. Are you listening to me? The Bible told us of a story that Jesus was traveling somewhere with the disciples, and the Bible said they came upon storms. Jesus was asleep. On the psychological level, I told you the other time that Jesus represents man's awakened imagination, that power that creates. And the Bible said in this story, the Bible told us that he was what? Asleep. And whilst he was asleep, there came storms. This is what happens when man is asleep. When man is not aware that his imagination awakens state, he ends up creating all kinds of things into his own world. So the man who was asleep was the same man who created the storm. Whilst we are asleep and we do not know the power that is hidden in us, we end up creating all kinds of things and they show up in our world. Every state, hear me, ladies and gentlemen, every state you find yourself in, you created it. This is one of the hardest truths that a man can comprehend. One of the hardest truths that a man can embrace. But I tell you, as you arise in knowledge and you seize that power, the Bible says when Jesus was awakened by the disciples, he calmed the storm. Which power did he use in calming the storm? The same power which created the storm whilst he was asleep. Your imagination creates your world around you. Whilst man is asleep and not aware of the power that is hidden inside of him, he unknowingly creates the storms of life that he encounters. So we are going through all kinds of challenges and we are not aware of what is happening, and man begins to search what is happening. He's not aware that he's just a container of a power that creates. He's not aware. And the power, whilst the man is asleep, to say a man is asleep is to say a man has forgotten. Are you getting the concept? So we are always creating. Whether you are aware that you are doing it or you are not aware, the power is always at work. So you come here and I share with you that there is a power inside of you that actually creates reality. Then you gain consciousness. If this power is at work inside of me, then I must be conscious of the things I imagine. Because as I imagine, I create. As I imagine, I create. One of the greatest teachers of this knowledge says something. He says, when man imagines, God begins to work. Now listen to this. Science compares God to energy, right? That everything is energy. Hear me. Do you know that electricity is just a power? I want to teach you guys something. Your imagination is just a power. Man is the operant of that power. Electricity can help you cook a food. Most of us in our hostels, we cook rice and other things with electricity. Am I correct? But you also know that electricity can cook the person who uses it to cook food. It is just a power. So sometimes when I speak to people, there is something inside of you that is actually creating your reality. They begin to wonder, how come everything is messed up around me? Are you trying to say that I'm the one that created this mess? They can't agree. When man is asleep, he can't agree with you. But as he begins to awake to the reality that is hidden inside of him, that wait, no, there is something in me that is actually creating. It is just a power. Somebody said, okay, if imagination is actually God in action, how come I'm able to imagine negative things? Listen, it is just power. You can decide to use electricity to charge your phone. You can also use it for something else. As a matter of fact, people are using electricity to build all kinds of things, even nuclear weapons. Are we together? Oh, are we together? Are you following? So I said this about Christ, that whilst the man was asleep, his imagination created storms. Whilst man is not aware, our imagination creates all kinds of realities into our world. All kinds of undesirable circumstances. You find your life encountering all kinds of things, and you begin to wonder, or is this somebody who is creating these things into my life? Well, that is possible, because all men are imagination. I can think something into this guy's world, but that thing can only find expression in this guy's world if he is also thinking along the same line. Say, man is all imagination, and God is man, and exists in us, and we in him. The spiritual body of every man is the imagination, and that is God himself. Are we together? Or are we together? Becomes awakened to the reality that his imagination actually creates his realities. He seizes that power, and then he begins to check his thoughts. He begins to align his thinking. Then suddenly, a bridge of incidents will begin to occur in his world, taking him out of misery into a perfect state of being. As long as you refuse to condition your imagination, it will still condition itself. Hear me very well. If you decide that what Imaderis is teaching today, I will not accept it, it is not true, it is okay, don't worry. The reality is that the imagination in you will begin to condition itself anyway, anyhow. There are some of you that your life is filled with all of drama. Every day another story. I tell you with all sincerity, I don't experience such things. Maybe if I used to, it would be about a year ago or 2 years ago or something. Things happening up and down, no, they hardly do. You have to cage the imagination, because once you allow it to move anywhere, it will begin to awaken all kinds of states. That's what is happening in the lives of most of us. All kinds of states have been awakened, and sometimes you sit down and you wonder, how come I find myself in this? What is actually going on? Somebody within you, a power within you is creating. And listen, that power doesn't know what is good and what is wrong. This is what man must come to realize. The other time I was teaching something on sin. On my status, I was teaching something about sin. And I was telling you guys that sin created by man, it is man who knows that this one is sin. The power inside of you can be conditioned to create anything. Anything. Because it is just a power. It doesn't know whether what you are trying to do is sin or it is righteousness. Are you listening to me? So if you leave your imagination anyhow, it will begin to awaken all kinds of things. There are some of you are dating certain guys who are punishing you in the relationship. Your own imagination has awakened that state. And when your imagination awakes the state, it attracts people who will make sure that you go through that state very, very well. 6 facts about the state of being. The states of being are eternal. The states of being are eternal. They existed before you were born, and they will exist after you are dead and gone. Hear me. The states of being in this world are eternal. Eternal states of being. They existed before man was born, and they will exist after he is dead and gone. So the guy who is a drunkard, the lady who is a prostitute, they are all in states. And when a man enters a state, his way of thinking is totally different. He sees the world that state of being. But listen to me, that man is not the state. He is somebody who has just entered a state. Am I communicating? Please focus here. When a man enters a state of being, okay, when a man enters a state of being, his desires are desires of that state. It is not by accident that a prostitute desires that she will sleep with 50 men. Some of them even go to bed. Remember being 50 at in a day. And you who belong to a different state of being will begin to wonder, how come you're able to think this way? She is just in a state. She's not aware of what is going on. So the great Blake said something. He said, I do not consider the just or the wicked to be in a supreme state, but in one of any of those states, in his deadly dreams of good and evil, when he left paradise following the serpent. When man decided to leave heaven and travel on earth, we entered a state of amnesia where we've forgotten of who we are. We've forgotten of the power that is hidden in us. And this power power begins to mold itself. Chances that if you are born by poor parents, you will end up being a poor parent is very high. Because whilst you were a child, your imagination is conditioned to see poverty, think poverty, and embrace poverty. And because imagination is just a power which doesn't know the difference between good and wrong, it will embrace everything that is given to it. So it is not by accident that you are from a poor family and your life is going that way. The imagination has been conditioned that way. If you understand this, you won't go to anyone that you should pray for you for something to be awakened. You will walk out of that state. Oh, and I see some people walking out of certain states. Or some people are walking out of certain states. Say, I am rising. I am rising. Are we together? So there are infinite states in this world. The alcoholic, all kinds of things. All kinds. We call them infinite states of being. And men are only travelers. I tell in heaven there'll be surprises. There are people you think they will never go to heaven. You will meet them there. Why? Because they were just in a state of being. And these are infinite states that they came to meet. The one who is the prostitute today, it didn't start today. In the Bible, there were people who were prostitutes. Are we getting it? It's just a state. And the mind has been conditioned to enter such a state. The person is not aware. She just finds herself or himself in that state. There are some of you, you don't even know the state that you find yourself in. But my teacher, Bob Proctor, taught us something. He said, it is not important trying to find the state that you are in. The most important thing is trying to rise to a higher state. Say, I'm trying to rise to a higher state. Man is only a traveler who passes through different states of being. Man is not the state he finds himself in. There are different kinds of states in this world. There are people who are in a state of fear. And listen, it is very easy to enter a state of being. Some of you can listen to a bad news and you end up in a state of being. Some of us watch all kinds of movies and we end up in a state of being. This is why I do not entertain negative news around me. You can't come to me and have discussion about somebody and try to say negative things about the person. Those things don't happen around me. Some of you accept that because that's what you are. Together. So we awaken all kinds of states. It's just like a car traveling from Accra to Cape Coast. It passes through different towns. Some of the towns are very nice. Others are very ugly. Now, just because the car has passed from Mankesim and it is now in Cape Coast doesn't mean Mankesim is dead. So you can walk out of a state, but it doesn't mean that state is dead. Another person has fallen into that state. Let me give you this example. How many of you, when we were young, we used to watch, there is this movie that came, Karishika. Young boy, we demons, so let's sing Karishika. Yes, Indomie for no moon. You remember those days? Now, who could check Karishika near the bench and a movie? No. Also, bench now they are correct. Nas what Karishika we nas more porn nas light of a bar. Because opening a state has been awakening in you called the state of fear. And to opening a bench na soon. Are we together? So at this point in time, you have to sing a Christian song to motivate yourself. And to opening now the Yetia Bon sounds. Oh, Yetia Bon sounds. You know, and it is so serious that some of us can stay in that state for about 2 weeks. So the things we watch can even awaken a state in us. The state of fear has been awakened. Then suddenly things will begin to happen in your world that confirms that state of being. When a man falls into a state of being, he acts the script of that state. I shared with you at our previous class that all men are actors. All of us are actors. You are simply in a state and you are acting the script of that state. To you, you think you know what you are doing. You are just acting a script. So all of us have a script that we are acting. And that script belongs to the state that you're falling in. So somebody said, how come Hitler was able to kill such a huge number of people and he didn't feel anything? And I said, well, if you should enter that same state of being that Hitler entered, you would have done the same thing without thinking. The same way you are doing things right now and you don't feel anything, you don't feel any remorse, you are just in a state and you are acting the script of that state. Every man is in a state of being, and the character of the man showcases the state that he has fallen in. Being in a state means you will only attract that which is associated with that state. So if you are in state A, it means you won't attract the things or the circumstances that belongs to state B. This is for the poor to become rich. And it is so easy for the rich to attract wealth. It is also very difficult for the rich to become poor. They are all in different states of being. Just as I told you, when a rich person gives birth to it, the child has the ability to become rich very easily, because right from childhood, his mindset, his imagination is molded to attract wealth, or is molded in the way of wealth. So that person may not even know why he or she is succeeding in life. Automatically things begins to work out because the imagination is molded that way. Same way, if you are born by poor parents, your imagination is automatically molded even before you gain consciousness that what am I doing? And the sad thing is that people walk through this earth and they never encounter this body of knowledge to know that they actually contain within them the power to walk out of any state of being. This week I was going through this message and I was looking at the entire tapestry of my life, and I noticed something interesting. I have walked into and from different states of being. At the primary school, I used to love sports very much. Junior high school, I became the best student in my school. Senior high school, I ended up becoming the topmost person when it comes to religious activities. At the university, I became a different person altogether. And now, a different person altogether. And I was looking at how come all these things kept on happening. Then I noticed that it was always from the imagination. When I went to the senior high school, I saw my school father and others who were SU leaders and stuff like that, and I loved that. I desired to be just like them because of the honor and the respect they were commanding on campus. I loved that state of being. I started imagining myself to be like them, and I ended up becoming the topmost person when it comes to religious activities. How did this happen? Was it by an accident? No, I imagined myself and I awakened that state. Every state of being is right there inside of you, simply awaiting your own imagination to awaken them. Are you following? Listen, for the next 2 weeks before we meet, I want you to pick a state of being. Listen, you don't need anyone to agree with you. Hear me, ladies and gentlemen. You don't need anyone to agree with you on which state of being to awaken in your life. The Bible says, if any two shall agree, on the psychological level, those two people are not you and I, as in you and I. No. If my human spirit and my human body can agree, we are still two. So I don't need you to agree with me on what I can become tomorrow. You can have your say and you can have your thought. I will still become that which I have agreed. My imagination and my physical body must agree that this is what we want to awaken. This is why you find people, they are praying, all right, but their imagination is seeking different things altogether. So the two have not yet agreed. Are we together? The imagination is attracting something different, and the physical body is confessing and praying for something different. The two has not yet agreed. So the Bible says, if any two can agree, if the imagination and the physical body can agree, they can awaken any state of being. Oh, I am awakening prosperity. Oh, I don't know about you, but I am awakening great things. I am awakening great things. I refuse to accept this state of being. So I have turned my back on poverty. Say, I have turned my back on poverty, on struggles, and I am embracing prosperity. Are we together? Merciful Savior, precious Redeemer, help me sing it.
Who would have told that a lamb could rescue the souls of me?
Oh, are we together? How do we move into a state of being? Listen, guys, I want you to become very serious about your lives. I shared with you the other time that poverty is painful. To be an ordinary person is too painful. Your parents are expecting you to become giants. They're getting to a point that until you become a great person, are you ready to allow your children to go through the things that we've been through? So some of us are so serious to the extent that there is no time for jokes. No, some of us you are in your 24th, 25, 26, and you are still playing. It's like matters to you. I tell you, poverty is real. What somebody will do to your daughter just because you are poor, you will be shocked. You have no idea. This is the time to war. This is the time to pick up bodies of knowledge and fight and become something. Are we together? Point number 1. Understand that you are only in a state of being. You are not the state. Irrespective of where you find yourselves, listen to me. You are just in a state of being. Man is only a traveler. He is only moving through states of. On this level, people think the prostitute is, her life is messed up. She's a prostitute. She's just in a state of being. And we all lack knowledge. She has fallen into a state of being called prostitute. You may also be in a different state called laziness. Some of the guys, we are in a state of laziness, like serious laziness. You don't have the desire. Some of us, we don't have the desire to become anything. If I should bring you the mic right now, what do you want to become? You don't know. It's also a state of being. You are more confused than anybody. Are we together? So you are not that state. You are just a traveler who has entered the state. So that's the first thing to know. No matter what you are today, you are just a traveler. And you can decide after this event to travel out of that state of being. Are we together? Now, the second point is forgive yourself of anything you've done. Listen to me, we are all justified. I don't care what religion has taught you. We are all justified. We came to meet this state of being that we find ourselves in. I am not the one who created prostitution. I am not the one who created drunkard. That state existed before I was born. And by one means or the other, either whilst I was conscious or not, I ended up entering into that state. Are you listening to me? So there are people who have entered different states. Just as when we were children, we watch all kinds of movies and we get scared. This thing called fear gets awakened in our spirits and all kinds of things begin to happen. We are not conscious of what is happening. We just know that we've entered a state. Do you get me? Good. So forgive yourself of anything you've done. A guy came to me, he was struggling with masturbation. And as he started speaking, I allowed him to say all that he wanted to say. And I said to him, the first and most important thing is to forgive yourself. It is just a state of being. Maybe you watched something or you listened to your friends having certain discussions and that state got awakened. And when a state is awakened, the person feels so helpless because this body of knowledge is not common. He feels he is the state. Say to yourself, I am not a state. I have just fallen into a state. And I can rise out of that state. Are we together? Now, after forgiving yourself, design your ideal state of being using your conscious mind. So, enough isn't. We've heard all that you have to say about poverty. We've heard all that you want to say about you being a third class student and all kinds of things. We've heard you. Now, design a new state of being for yourself. All things being equal in your life, where do you want to be in the next 2 or 3 years? What state of being do you desire to embody? You've heard the news today that you are just a traveler traveling through states of being. If you look at your current life, you do not like it. Okay, so what do you want? In the early days of Pastor Chris' ministry, this was what he was teaching, that the world is yours. What do you want? Can you design that state of being using your mind? How do you really want to live? How do you really want to live? How do you want your love life to be? Some of us have no plans, anything, or baby be share. Are we together? How do you want your finances to be? Man must decide. Man must decide. Then you create a sin that implies your state is fulfilled. Your desire state is fulfilled. So what is your ideal state? When we go into the silence, I want you to imagine yourself telling me that you have entered your ideal state of being. What is your ideal state of being? What state of being do you desire or you have right now? Men always decree what they become in consciousness. Men always what? They decree. Forget about the circumstances. Circumstances are just bridges that will lead you to where you have decreed in this. So which state of being do you desire to embody? Remember I said, forgive yourself of all that you've done. Then secondly, see yourself as a traveler. I am just walking through states. I may be in poverty now, but I have come to know that I am not that state. I am just a traveler who has fallen into a state of being. Therefore, I can travel out of that state. So, if I am desiring now to travel out of poverty, which state of being am I entering in? The Bible says Daniel turned his back on the afflictions and he focused and prayed. He embodied the desired state of being. So, which desired state do you want to embody? Because I have mine. And I'm sure you also have yours. Some of you are not really sure. All right. The fifth point is go into the silence as often as possible. Go into the silence as often as possible and leave your imagination. And leave your imagination. I had a call from Accra that they've invited me to coach the nominees for Ghana 25, under 25. And I was like, okay. Because I have a state of being in my mind that I am embodying. It may not have found full expression now in time. Are you listening to me? But I am still there. I am still in that state of being. I do not care what is happening on the outside. I am still in that state of being. And I am holding that state of being. It doesn't matter what people are saying on the outside. Let them have their say. I will have my way. Say, let them have their say. I will have my way. So what state of being are you desiring to embody? Go into the silence. Some of you can do just 30 minutes. Lie on your bed. Close your eyes and see yourself living that state of being. What are you doing? You are awakening that state within you. Is it the first class? Is it the doctorate? Are we together? Are we together? Listen, all things are possible for you. I tell you with all sincerity. All things are possible for you. Never look at the circumstances that you find yourself in. It is the state in which you are that has produced that result that you are seeing. But if you can, within these 2 weeks before we meet, pick up a state and dwell in that state every night, 30 minutes, I tell you with all sincerity, things will begin to change. You will meet people who will be willing to help you. The Bible says Gentiles will come to your rising. It says that the people you know will not come to your rising. It says Gentiles, people you do not know, are those who come to your rising. Some of you are looking at life from the people around you and the challenges. You are seeing life from that angle. But I tell you, if you can believe in what I'm saying, oh, are we together? You can meet just one person, change every story about your life. It is possible. It is what? Possible. I've shared all kinds of things with you about the imagination. I have absolute faith in my imagination. I do not concern myself with what is happening and what somebody may be saying. No. I dwell in my imagination. I was telling my brother something that, do you know that the conferences we've had, that's epignosis, from January till now, we've had 4. With every epignosis event, we spend not less than 1,200. Every epignosis event that we have, we spend not less than 1,200. And let me tell you a shocking thing. The total amount of money that you put in this envelope, the total, so far from January till now, is 405 Ghana cedis. So look at the difference. But I kept on dwelling in my imagination. Just this week, a company contacted us. They want to do business with us. They've already deposited $2,300 in our account. And this week, they were asking us that their epignosis that we organize, how much do we spend per event? You are looking at the challenges and the things that have surrounded you. If you keep looking at those things, you will never rise from them. Pick your soul out of those things. Pick your spirit out of those things. My body is here, but my spirit is at the end. Remember the message on living in the end. So my spirit is at the end. I am not concerned with the difficulties and the things. If you look at them, you remain there forever. Say, I refuse to look at them. The imagination knows everybody in this world. Because your imagination is God in action. You know everybody in this world. If you keep dwelling in that state, He will connect you to people that you are not even thinking about them. A business will just show up and they'll say you are the one who can make this thing work. But as long as man pays attention to the lions, he will remain there forever. So Daniel turned his back on the lions. I refuse to look at the challenges I find myself in. I am focusing on the wish fulfilled. So somebody out there may be wondering, so how are these guys organizing this event? How are they making it happen? Because just the venue. The venue is now 500 Ghana cedis. TNT for CCTU, 200 Ghana cedis. Lightning and all these things, graphic designing. This one here is 600 Ghana cedis. How are these guys making this happen? There is something I know. I am not looking at the people here to give me money. No, there is something. If what I know truly works, it must produce financial gains. So when I lie on my bed, I do not see the people here giving me anything. I see myself at the end. I see myself every night at the end. Then the imagination will begin to make things happen, picking different bodies to cause things to happen. I am not concerned. The Bible says that His ways are beyond our ways and His thoughts are beyond our thoughts. If you try finding out how things will work for you, you will not believe. Because when you look at yourself, who knew about $2,000? You tamo the worship for ma, you better cring 50 pesos. So if you look at where you are right now, you will never imagine anything great for yourself. Because you are filled with all kinds of difficulties and challenges and all kinds of things. So your mind will be on them. But I tell you, if you can enter into that desired state, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. The people in your world are only reflecting that which you are within. The things they tell you and all kinds of things. All of us have been into different states of being. There are people who knew us to be bad people, and now they look at us and they see a total transformation. You are not supposed to tell them that, hey, now I've changed, or I'm now in a new state of being. There is no need. Men are witnesses. They will begin to bear witness to what you have become. Forget about them and everything they are saying. Just change within you. Enter the new state of being and dwell in that state. I ask you guys once again, what is your ideal state? What is your ideal state? I have my ideal state in mind, and I'm holding on to that state. What you are seeing us doing right now is nothing compared to where we've imagined to be. Now, this is it. This is a body of knowledge that I am living my life on. Just as somebody will go to a juju man and they will give him a charm. It's the same way you are also dwelling upon something that you know. The last now to talk about is that, guys, you qualify for any state of being. Don't let your past, don't let things that you've done in the past cause you to think that you don't deserve certain states of being. No, you can become whatever you want to become in this world. I tell you, it doesn't matter where you are coming from. It doesn't matter what people are saying about you today. It doesn't matter. If only you can define where you want to go and dwell in that state in your mind, you will get there. You decide. Say, I decide. I want you guys to rise to this level of intelligence. If you focus on what people are saying, in especially this Ghanaian society, you will never rise. Because we live in a society that is much more interested in your weaknesses than your strength. There are people who have become champions in the United States and even in Nigeria. If they were to be in Ghana, because we live in a state where Nipana dream or form. Look at the conversations that people have. Most of your conversations, oh, think will be and a girl anyway, and a boy, and no, the bed. Let me tell you, if you want to see where people are living in terms of intelligence, just look at their conversation. Your conversation reveals your level of intelligence. Your level of intelligence is revealed when you speak. People get to know. This is why Ghanaians are unable to rise. Because we live in a nation that people are so much interested in. Oh yes, oh rise. Yeah, I start to check. Why then we find comfort in discussing things that do not matter. But yes, here man, yes, maybe now girls here train. What bedding? The girls here train. No wood bedding. The person is skillful. He can do the work. What to say now? All kinds of things. This is why the whites are rising. Because the whites are not interested in all these kinds of things. Are we together? Say, I will rise. I will rise. So first and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to forgive yourselves. Then decide on the state of being that you desire to embody. I do not know about you, but I have so much confidence in myself. I do not care about what any other person thinks. This is myself in my world. I believe that all things are possible to me. And I believe that that which I have determined in my mind to accomplish, God will make it a reality for me. You can have it, but I will have my way. Say, they can have their say, but we will have our way. Are we together? Are you ready to go into the silence? Now, when we enter into the silence, I want to see you. I do not know the desire that you've brought here. I do not know the state of being that you are wishing to embody.